शिला प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर भक्तवृंद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देव श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरं। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। Okay. So we're reading from Krishna book, second chapter. This material world is composed of five principal elements: earth, water, air, fire, air, and ether, and all such elements are emanations from Krishna. The material scientists accept these five primary elements as the cause of the material manifestation. But the elements in their gross and subtle states are produced by Krishna. The living entities who are working within this material world are products of his marginal potency. In the seventh chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that the whole manifestation is a combination of two kinds of energies of Krishna, the superior energy and the inferior energy. The living entities are the superior energy, and the dead material elements are his inferior energy. In its dormant stage, everything remains in Krishna. The demigods continue to offer their respectful prayers onto the supreme form of the personality of Godhead Krishna by analytical study of the material manifestation. What is this material manifestation? It is just like a tree. A tree stands on the ground. Similarly, the tree of the material manifestation is standing on the ground of material nature. This material manifestation is composed of a tree because the tree is ultimately cut off in due course of time. Our tree is called Vriksha. Vriksha means that thing which will be ultimately cut off. Therefore, this tree of material manifestation cannot be accepted as the ultimate truth because it is influenced by time. But Krishna's body is eternal. He existed before the material manifestation. He is existing while the material manifestation is continuing, and when it will be dissolved, he will continue to exist. Therefore, only Krishna can be accepted as the absolute truth. The Katha Upanishad also cites this example of the tree of the material manifestation standing on the ground of material nature. This tree has two kinds of fruits, distress and happiness. Those who are living in the tree of the body are just like two birds. One bird is the localized aspect of Krishna, known as the Paramatma, and the other bird is the living entity. The living entity is eating the fruits of this material manifestation. Sometimes he eats the fruit of happiness, and sometimes he eats the fruit of distress. But the other bird is not interested in eating the fruit of distress or happiness because he is self satisfied. The Katha Upanishad states that one bird on the tree of the body is eating the fruits, and the other bird is simply witnessing. The roots of this tree extend in three directions. This means that the root of the tree is the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Just as the tree's root expands, so by association of the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, one expands his duration of material existence. The tastes of the fruits are of four kinds: religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and ultimately liberation. According to the different associations in the three modes of material nature, the living entities are tasting different kinds of religiosity, different kinds of economic development, different kinds of sense gratification, and different kinds of liberation. Practically all material work is performed in ignorance. But because there are three qualities, sometimes the quality of ignorance is covered by goodness or passion. The taste for these material fruits is accepted through five senses. The five sense organs through which knowledge is acquired are subjected to six kinds of whips: lamentation, illusion, infirmity, death, hunger, and thirst. This material body or the material manifestation is covered by seven layers: skin, muscle, bone, marrow, blood, marrow, bone, fat, and semen. The branches of the trees are eight: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. There are nine gates in this body: the two eyes, the two nostrils, the two ears, one mouth, one genital, one rectum. And there are 10 kinds of internal air passing within the body: pran, apan, udan, vyan, saman, etc. The two birds seated in this tree, as explained above, are the living entities and the localized Supreme Personality of Godhead Paramatma. The root cause of the material manifestation described here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expands himself to take charge of the three qualities of the material world. Vishnu takes charge of the mode of goodness, Brahma takes charge of the mode of passion, and Lord Shiva takes charge of the mode of ignorance. Brahma, by the mode of passion, creates this manifestation. Lord Vishnu maintains the manifestation by the mode of goodness, and Lord Shiva annihilates it by the mode of ignorance. The whole creation ultimately rests in the Supreme Lord. He is the cause of creation, maintenance, and dissolution. And when the whole manifestation is dissolved, in its subtle form, as his energy, it rests within his body. At present, the demigods prayed, the Supreme Lord Krishna is appearing just for the maintenance of this manifestation. Actually, the Supreme Cause is one, but less intelligent people, being deluded by the three modes of material nature, see that the material world is manifested through different causes. Those who are intelligent can see that the cause is one, Krishna. As it is stated in Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sarva Karana Karanam. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of all causes. Brahma is the deputed agent for creation. Vishnu is the expansion of Krishna for maintenance, and Lord Shiva is the expansion of Krishna for dissolution. Our dear Lord, the demigods prayed, it is very difficult to understand your eternal form or personality. People in general are unable to understand your actual form. Therefore, you are personally descending to exhibit your original eternal form. Somehow, people can understand the different incarnations of your Lordship, but they are puzzled to understand the eternal form of Krishna, with two hands moving among human beings, exactly like one of them. This eternal form of your Lordship gives ever increasing transcendental pleasure to the devotees. But for the non devotees, this form is very dangerous. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is very pleasing to the sadhus, paritranaya sadhunam. But this form is very dangerous for the demons because Krishna also descends to kill the demons. He is therefore simultaneously pleasing to the devotees and dangerous to the demons. Our dear lotus-eyed Lord, you are the source of your goodness. There are many great sages who simply by samadhi or transcendentally meditating upon your lotus feet and thus being absorbed in your thought have easily transformed the great ocean of nascence created by the material nature into no more than the water in the calf's hoofprint. The purpose of meditation is to focus the mind upon the personality of Godhead, beginning from his lotus feet. Simply by meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord, great sages cross over this vast ocean of material existence without delay. O self-illuminated one, the great saintly persons who have crossed over the ocean of nascence by the help of the transcendental boat of your lotus feet have not taken away that boat. It is still lying on this side. If one takes a boat to cross over a river, the boat also goes with one to the other side of the river. And so when one reaches the destination, how can the same boat is available to those who are still on this side? To answer this difficulty, the demigods say in their prayer that the boat of the Lord's lotus feet is not taken away. The devotees still remaining on this side are able to pass over the ocean of material nature because the pure devotees do not take the boat with them when they cross over. When one simply approaches the boat, the whole ocean of material existence is reduced to the size of the water in the calf's footprint. Therefore, the devotees do not need to take the boat on the other side. They simply cross the ocean immediately because the great saintly persons are compassionate toward all conditioned souls. The boat is still lying on this side. In other words, one can meditate upon the lotus feet of the Lord at any time, and by so doing, one can cross over the great ocean of material existence. Meditation means concentration upon the lotus feet of the Lord. Lotus feet indicate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But those who are impersonalists do not recognize the lotus feet of the Lord, and therefore their object of meditation is something personal. The demigods express their mature verdict that persons who are interested in meditating on something void or impersonal cannot cross over the ocean of nascence. Such persons are simply imagining that they have become liberated. O lotus-eyed Lord, their intelligence is contaminated because they fail to meditate upon the lotus feet of your Lordship. As a result of this neglectful activity, the impersonalists fall down again into the material way of conditioned life, although they may temporarily rise to the point of impersonal realization. Impersonalists undergo severe austerities and penance to merge themselves into the Brahman effulgence or impersonal Brahman existence, but their minds are not free from material contamination. They have simply tried to negate the material ways of thinking. That does not mean that they have become liberated. Thus, they fall down. Srila Prabhupada also mentioned act of instruction that the best way I mean, the first verse says, who can become spiritual master? One who can accept disciples all over the world. It says, one who has controlled the spirit. speech, Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, control over the anger, control over Manasa mind. Um, Jiva, control over the tongue, and genitals and belly. And Prabhupada says one can control the mind by focusing on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that the impersonalist has to undergo great tribulation in realizing his ultimate goal. At the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also stated that without devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot achieve liberation from the bondage of fruitive activities. The statement of Lord Krishna is there in the Bhagavad Gita and in Srimad Bhagavatam. The statement of the great sage Narada is there, and here also the demigods confirm it. Persons who have not taken to devotional service are understood to have come short of the ultimate purpose of knowledge and are not favored by your grace. The impersonalists simply think that they are liberated, but actually they have no feeling for this personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada also says impersonalists fall down because they have no understanding about the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. And Prabhupada says that they may think they are liberated, but that's a mental concoction. They think that yes, now I'm free from um, um, all the impurities, all the contaminations, all the six anarthas, lust, envy, anger, pride. But they are simply trying to avoid material circumstances, but they're all in there. Uh, and just by feeling that I have become free from these anarthas, one does not become free. That's like a cheating oneself, and that's what these impersonalists do. They think that when Krishna comes into the material world, he accepts a material body. They therefore overlook the transcendental body of Krishna. So their conception is ultimately the divine God is impersonal. And then if the question comes, then who is Krishna? Then they say Krishna comes from Brahman, and Krishna enters into Brahman after his disappearance. So for one to appear and for one to disappear, naturally they say that the body is material. But Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, and that's what they say, that all different varieties of um, um, even Vishnu or Ramachandra or even demigods, they say they all come from Brahman and they enter into Brahman. And they say that there is no transcendental form. Everything is um, uh, uh, material form. They say that, yeah, Krishna is in mode of goodness, his body is in mode of goodness, but ultimately he merges. And Krishna also says that he says that fools consider my form to be material. So Mudas, he called them, they are fools. And Prabhupada also says, this is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, avagyananti mamura. So they are in ignorance and they are foolish because they do not know my transcendental nature as they are. And in 7th chapter, Krishna says the intelligent people, they take shelter of my internal energy through devotional service. The less intelligent people, they worship demigods, and the unintelligent people who have absolutely no intelligence, they think that I was impersonal before, have temporarily assumed this personality, and will again become impersonal after at this point of after my disappearance. So they are, Krishna calls them as listen. Many verses Krishna says in connection to this. And because they don't consider the form of the Lord as eternal, transcendental, full of bliss, they don't take shelter of him, and then there is no positive experience for them. The only experience is meditate on light, which is considered as, yes, there is absence from suffering, but there is no positive experience. That's why Rupa Goswami says in the beginning of Nectar of Instruction, um, he says pure devotional service derides the concept of liberation, impersonal liberation, because the devotee, when they experience, when they taste the pleasure of devotional service, the pleasure of hearing, pleasure of chanting, pleasure of serving, um, uh, and various aspects of devotional service, deity worship. So when they experience devotional service, they they literally deride or discard or thrashes away the concept of impersonal aspect because it's so dry. In spite of conquering material lust and rising to the point of liberation, the impersonalists fall down. If they are engaged just in knowing things for the sake of knowledge and do not take to devotional service of the Lord, they cannot achieve the desired result. Their achievement is the trouble they take, and that is all. Bhagavad is telling what is the achievement? The trouble they take. What trouble they take? It's all mental speculation. And they think that okay, um, all mental speculation means they don't focus on purifying the heart to the process of devotional service. For example, here the conception of material lust. So they say, well, the body is just a skin, and then there is bone, marrow, and flesh, and all these things. So what is in it? It's all dry. It's all an illusion. Ultimately, we are Brahman. So in that way, through mental speculation, they avoid material activities, but that does not make them free from the lusty desires or free from any of the anartha. So they don't engage, and they use their intellect, which is good thing. As devotees, we can also use our intellect, but we know that it's a very temporary thing. It's going to come back some other time. So what actually purifies the heart is process of devotional service. When we practice devotional service, the pleasure we experience in devotional service is what purifies the heart. Um, and uh, in our process, uh, lust is never removed, it is transformed into love. For them, there is no conception of love, because to love somebody, you need somebody. So there is no conception of love. So it's not possible for it to go away. And for us, greed is transferred into hankering for serving Krishna, to hear about Krishna, to really want Krishna, um, that great longing to experience Krishna. So no, that greed is not there. I mean, it's there for impersonalism, but then there is mm, anger also has its place. Um, um, so in this way, a personalist, he actually purifies. Uh, he purifies everything in relation to Krishna by engaging everything towards Krishna. Um, and that is a way that it's all perverted. So all we have to do is not remove them, all we have to do is purify them. From perverted comes to it should become real. Everything comes from Krishna, all the counterparts comes from Krishna, because Krishna is source of everything. So our process is different. Their process is, you speculate, there is no information of the Lord, there is no transfer of such emotions. You speculate, everything is material. What will I get by getting this? Those who have it are suffering anyway, so I don't need it. So through mental speculation, and then they feel, yeah, I don't need it because it's all material. I don't need to enjoy this pleasure because this is all material. And then they think that I have become from lust and greed. But no, just by speculating and not engaging. So Prabhupada says mental negation, material negation. Material negation means I don't want this, I don't want this. By material negation, you don't become pure. By material negation, okay, you may not engage in those activities, your intellect can be sharpened, but ultimately, for us, it's the holy name. Holy name purifies. Chetodarpana Marjana. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give us. And that's why Prabhupada says they think they are liberated, but they are not. They think they are liberated. Um, and then they fall down. So, in spite of conquering material lust and risking to the point of liberation, the impersonalists fall down. That's what they get as a result. Narad Muni says in his prayers, demigods are saying, Brahmaji prays in 10th canto. Um, uh, in 14th chapter, he prays. So, various prayers pointing to the same idea. And Prabhupada says their achievement is the trouble they take, and that is all. They take so much trouble because the thing is the desires are there. They have the desires. So mentally they are negating. Then desire comes negating. Desire comes negating, and they think I'm not engaging in any of these things, so I become free. But no, desires are there. So it's just the process is very troublesome. There is nothing positive to take shelter of, but a devotee takes shelter of lotus feet of Krishna. When he chants his beads, he meditate on massaging lotus feet of Krishna. Prabhupada would do that. One may do that. Or the name of Krishna, hearing the name of Krishna, meditating on the form of Krishna, meditating on the qualities of Krishna, meditating on the pastimes of Krishna. Everything is, Krishna is condensed bliss. So everything is very positive. And the negation it takes, that's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the path is very troublesome because they have nothing to hold on to. The devotional service, which is for us, is there. They have nothing to hold on to, and it's mental arduous effort. No, and use the intellect and discuss with others. It's all speculation, and the result is they fall down. And Krishna calls them fools. That's all. So it is clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita that to realize Brahman identification is not all. Brahman identification may help one become joyful without material attachment or detachment, and to achieve the platform of equanimity. But after this stage, one has to take to devotional service. So yes, Brahman identification may help one become joyful without material attachment or detachment. So they may not have attachment or detachment. Now, naturally, our misery, our suffering comes from our attachments. Whatever we are attached to, we basically try to acquire it, or conception, or we try to control something. It's all because of attachment. And then many thing happens, and we ultimately, things don't go our way naturally, the nature of this world, and then we are miserable. But they try not to become attached, not to become detached through mental speculation, so they are relatively peaceful. But Prabhupada says that's the stage of equanimity. Equanimity means, okay, you're not miserable. Even Prahlad Maharaj in his prayer says, if you want to be happy in this world, try stop being happy in this world, because our misery comes when we search for happiness. That's what Prahlad Maharaj says. So they achieve the platform of equanimity, but after this stage, one has to take to devotional service. It's true, pure devotional service begins after liberation. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatmana Sochatina Kankshati Samaham Sarva Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. They can take to the process of bhakti. Um, uh, till that time it is mixed. So this stage one has to take to devotional service. When one takes to devotional service after being elevated to the platform of Brahman realization, he is then attained into the spiritual kingdom for permanent residence in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Very good example is Sukadev Goswami Maharaj. He was on a Brahman platform, then he took to the stage of pure devotional service instantaneously. As soon as he heard Srimad Bhagavatam, his heart was immediately attracted. And when Prabhupada says when one take to devotional service, after being elevated to the stage of Brahman realization means I'm spiritual. Prabhupada would say Brahman realization for us means Brahman means spirit. Um, Even in the ninth chapter, at the end of seventh chapter, Arjun asks Krishna, what is Brahman? In the beginning of eighth chapter, what is Brahman? And Krishna says, Brahman is the living entities. Krishna says. So the jivas, spiritual living entities. So when one comes to realize, basically when one goes beyond bodily platform, that's Brahman realization for us. And so no material attachments, no ahankar, and then one can take to devotional service, I mean pure devotional service, and then one is admitted into the spiritual kingdom for permanent residence in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the result of devotional service. Those who are devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead never fall down like the impersonalist. Even if the devotees fall down, they remain affectionately attached to their Lord. Prabhupada says they never fall down, and then he says even if the devotees fall down, they remain affectionately attached to their Lord. They can meet all kinds of obstacles on the path of devotional service, and freely without any fear they can surmount such obstacles. Um, because of their surrender, they are certain that Krishna will always protect them. As it is promised in Bhagavad Gita, my devotees are never vanquished. So, as devotees, we meet all kinds of obstacles, um, and obstacles are actually given in our lives so that um, we can purify ourselves. Today I was hearing to a lecture by my spiritual master, and he says those who gives us trouble should be worshipped. Those people who give us trouble should be worshipped, because uh, when we face trouble, my Guru Maharaj says that you have to be very grateful to them who are giving you troubles, because through troubles only we will become purified, because we cannot become pure unless our own anarthas are exposed to us. So, comfortable life is not possible in the life of devotees. It's not possible, because um, like we have to be agitated and exposed so that we take shelter of Krishna. So, this principle of Krishna consciousness is we see things as the mercy of Krishna. Running away from a problem, from a situation, is not a solution, because then we fail to see the hand of Guru and Krishna in those problems, in those obstacles. Facing it in a divine consciousness, it's an opportunity to practice. Now, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, "Become tall and like a tree." But if there is no such opportunity and things are going very nice and exactly as what we want, then where do we get a chance to practice tolerance like a, where do we get a chance to practice humbleness, humility like a grass? Humility is actually tested when we are stepped on, like a grass is stepped on. When we are stepped on, then that humility is tested. We may fail, that's okay, and then we lament, and then we hear from devotees and from spiritual master, and then we feel like, oh, I miserably failed, and then Krishna mercifully puts us in another situation. And this is all Krishna's mercy, because like a sand water, the sand is settled down, so from the top the water looks clear. So for sand to come up, the water has to be agitated. Likewise, the anarthas in us are settled down. So in very nice calm situation, on the surface everything looks clear. It's very easy to practice humility, practice tolerance. Why? Because nobody is giving us trouble, so there is no need to practice tolerance. Nobody is testing our humility, and everyone is humble in front of us. So very easy to stay humble in front of them. Everybody is giving respect, so it's very easy to give respect to them also, because they are giving respect. But but then how will we become purified? So our path is not an impersonalist path who makes the sand settle down and live in the forest and just be in isolation. And that is not our path. What Krishna does in our life is Krishna agitates us. And how Krishna agitates us is bringing the elements. That elements can be at home, can be in association, can be at work, can be in the form of children, can be in the form of anything. But Krishna is agitating us just so that we can take shelter of Krishna. Ultimately, we will become purified only by taking shelter of Krishna. But then thinking that, if Krishna doesn't agitate us, then we may also feel that, yes, now I'm practicing, I'm humble all the time, I'm tolerant all the time, but that's not going to help us, that's just going to cheat us. And Krishna doesn't want us. So Krishna creates troubles. And then lamentation, that's why Srila Prabhupada says, is mode of ignorance. Lamentation means, why this is happening to me. That means then we need to sharpen our hearing, increase our hearing, because through hearing we get to know the right perspective. What is the importance of association of great devotees like Srila Prabhupada and our spiritual masters? The association will give us the right consciousness. Association will speak how to deal in this situation, because normally our our disturbed mind will create a consciousness which may not be conducive for our Krishna consciousness. And then there is the process of devotional service, specifically hearing, and then it gives us a direction, and then it makes sense for us, and then we turn towards Krishna, and then we again do that, and then we again do that. That's why we cannot raise our consciousness without uh, um, without associating with a higher consciousness. So in that higher consciousness, we get a higher principle, and then we follow. But the principle is um, a devotee. In a devotee's life is never peaceful. And Yugal Kishore Prabhu says so many times, Vasudeva and Devaki were in deep trouble when Krishna was about to appear, and then all the Vrajvasis were in deep trouble. And wherever Krishna went, that's where the trouble went, indicating that devotee should not think that now I come to Krishna consciousness, now life is very peaceful and very nice and very blissful. That's there during first few weeks when we come to Krishna consciousness. But then starts, once the sample period is over, then starts the stage of purification. And that goes for a long time. And what pleases Krishna is when Krishna gives puts in a particular situation, how do we deal in that situation? That's what pleases Krishna. And what are those things that Krishna describes? Amanitvam, which is humility, pridelessness, forgiveness, tolerance. He says these are the qualities that pleases me. And then we try, and then we try, and then we are disturbed. We take shelter of Krishna, and it's a continuous process. It's a continuous process. But if we can maintain good consciousness, and like Brahmaji says, with heart, with body, with mind, surrender, 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 surrender. And then for that person, love of God, it becomes his rightful claim. Um, and this is, like Sasaru Goswami Maharaj says, it's a life of preparation. Um, so that's all we have for our discussion today. If there is any um, discussion, we can take now.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Pranam. Very grateful for the sharing, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my inquiry is on the lamentation part. So, Prabhuji, like we lament and then we come back, but meditation goes so much so that the same position at that, like I'm in the same position. I'm not growing. So lamentation goes like this way, then it becomes little negative. So just Prabhuji, like your inspiration on like lamentation should lead to taking shelter. That's the best. That's the best. It seems like the right thing. But then sometimes lamentation leads to uh, a feeling of lack of reciprocation. So, Prabhuji, any inspiration on that?
It is to some extent natural. Prabhuji is just like initial stage of Arjuna and later stage of Arjuna. In the initial stage of Arjuna, Arjuna was lamenting, but Krishna did not appreciate his lamentation, although he had proper reasons. And then when he heard from Lord Krishna, his lamentation converted into a joy, into an opportunity. So I feel, Prabhuji, in my own life, what I've experienced is natural for mind to take over because the mind is disturbed and it takes over. But then that's where our spiritual master comes into picture, and the Vani comes into picture, and then that gives us joy, that gives us strength to deal with it. So many devotees, so many instances, they're enlivened when they hear sincerely with a desire. We can hear with a desire our spiritual master's lectures that Guru Maharaj, please help me in this condition, in this situation. And then the lecture will speak to you. Um, So we take shelter of hearing. And that's what will transform Prabhuji. It's just how we deal with the situation, and that is Guru and Krishna's mercy. The principle of Guhyam Akhyati Prichati, that's where this principle helps, is seeking guidance from whoever we are inspired by, sharing our mind, our heart helps.
This is very helpful. Understanding that lamentation is to be taken as an opportunity. So thank you very much.
We take shelter, we remain patient when the situation is very troublesome. Remain patient, constant prayers. My dear Lord Krishna, please help me in this situation. Something went wrong. My dear Lord Krishna, please help me, because nature of this world is things always go wrong, Prabhu. Nature of this world. So prayerful mode, patience, and Shravanam and Kirtana, hearing and then taking shelter of the holy name. And while taking shelter of the holy name, my Lord, please help me in this situation. My Lord, please help me in this situation. And then we gain back our concentration on the lotus feet and concentration on hearing the holy name. And just we realize that, oh, something else went wrong. The nature of devotee's life is things keeps going wrong all the time. And then our impetus is keep taking shelter of the Lord, and we work carefully on avoiding the 10 offenses as much as possible, and gradually we become more and more careful, um, and gradually Krishna's soul desires, he can give us deeper and deeper absorption. Anything else before we end?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very informative class. I don't have a question, but thank you for stressing that how we fail the test and then we take shelter. And then that's how spiritual master speaks to us. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mata. Thank you. So if there is no other discussion, then maybe we can end here. My obeisances to all of you. One Chakapata Vivesha, Kripa Sindhu Evacha, Patika Nam Pamani, Vaishnava Namo Namaha, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you very much for this beautiful Sangha. Dandat Pranam, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
so much, Prabhuji. Dandot
Thank you,
pranams.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.